Welcome, everybody. This is the Augie hosted event with myself, Miss Catherine. Tonight, or today, I'm sorry, not tonight. Today, we're going to talk all things sibling love, right? How to get different age groups of siblings to get along, how to introduce new babies to a family dynamic, and everything in between. So, how I like to break apart this class is I'm going to talk a little bit about who I am really quick, and then we're going to talk about four different areas in sibling love. So, we're going to talk about introducing a new sibling, if that is something that's happening in your world, family time, and how that is important to really grow sibling love and that connection that we always want with our little ones, conflict and sharing resolution and solutions to that, and parental factors when it comes to sibling love and sibling bonds. So, those are the four areas we're going to touch on in today's class. The way I like to do my classes is I like to go through all the information that I can give you. And then at the end, if you have any questions about sibling love or something I can help you with or a specific scenario, feel free to type it in the chat box below, and I will get to those in our Q&A section at the end of the class. So, first, I would like to thank Augie for having me today. I am so excited to be part of the Augie community. I just think it's a wonderful community. And a little bit about myself, really quick. I am Miss Catherine. I am the owner and operator of Miss Catherine. I started my business about 7 years ago. I am an early childhood development specialist, and I work with families one on one on all things early childhood: potty training, sleep training, picky, fussy eating, behavior modification. I have an extensive background in autism and child psychology. I then went on, got my master's degree in early childhood education and development. And so I have a vast knowledge in this world of early childhood. I'm also the mom of three boys, a 7, a 4, and a 2-year old. So I'm right there with all of you. And so I love doing things like this where I host classes for many different organizations. I also host my own classes, and then I work with families one on one, sort of supporting them, creating plans for them, and working through different early childhood obstacles. Um, I am going to put in the chat box below my email if you feel the need to email me after today's class. It's a great way to get a hold of me and learn more about my services. Also, if you are on social media, this is my handle. You can find me on there every day talking about something new, some tip, trick, and that is the best way to see my upcoming events as well. So let's get into sibling love, shall we? Again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box below, and I will get to them at the end, right? So, sibling love. We as a whole, as a collective, our children have a very hard time learning the idea of empathy. So, those of you who just joined us, we literally just started. Um, and so you didn't miss anything yet. You just missed my intro. But so they have children have a very hard time learning empathy in today's world, and that is mainly due to the fact that that connection and those social interactions are way more limited than they were when we were children, due to technology, due to our way of life, right? So teaching empathy is so important when it comes to early childhood, and it's so important when it comes to sibling love. The good news is it's a lot easier to teach that through siblings, sibling conflict resolution, and just sort of that family connectedness will help really support them learning empathy at a very young age. So, the first thing I always like to talk about when it comes to sibling love is introducing a new baby into your family. I remember when I was about to have my second, I thought I was going to ruin my first life, right? Because all he knew was his own world with mom and dad, and we were about to sort of flip it upside down, right? But the good thing is it's a very beneficial developmental aspect when you have a sibling. So just keep that in mind that you're not going to ruin their world, right? But it is something that I always tell families, it is important to slowly introduce the concept that there is going to be another person to share our attention with, to share our toys with, to share our space with. Um, and we don't want to really dump it on them so fast, right? So as soon as you find out that you are expecting or going to bring home a new baby, we really want to start integrating that concept to our little ones. My favorite way of doing that is reading books. That books are a great way for our little ones to sort of relate to a new concept at their level. It's also a great way for you to read a book and then see what they have to say or what they sort of gravitate towards in that story. That will really let you know what their worries are, what they're excited about, and then you can use that as a basis to sort of jump off of and grow more about the concept of introducing a new baby to them. Um, I also say there's a lot of prep when it comes to bringing home a new baby, but don't forget to prep your little one, right? It could be the simplest thing of you're used to carrying them up the stairs at night. And when new baby comes, you're going to have your hands full. You might not be able to lift them and sort of understanding, oh, that's something that's going to happen and starting to help your little one understand that now. So start practicing walking up the stairs, holding their hand instead of carrying them up the stairs. Just those little shifts in your mindset in your daily practice will help them feel still included, still loved, all those things, but it won't be this drastic change when baby comes because there's a lot of times when baby comes that the little one will start to resent baby, right? Their attention, their world's changing, things are different. And so I think it's important to remember that and be as proactive as possible as you can be. Other things that I always tell families to do, make a mommy and daddy basket full of toys or things that your little one can do when you are unable to occupy them because you are with baby. So, feeding time, changing time, having that basket in the nursery, downstairs, wherever you may be, so that your toddler can pull it out and play with new toys and feel just as apart and special as everything with baby will be helpful to them, right? And I always say we don't want to have a doer. We definitely can have a helper with a big sibling, but not a doer. So a lot of times we will sort of gravitate towards let's tell, Catherine to go get the diaper, right? But that is telling them to do something and it can sort of build that resentment between toddler and baby. So instead, we want them to be a helper. Do you want to be mommy's helper? And if they say no, that's okay. And letting them sort of go and do their own thing will be helpful. We really want them to set the pace when it comes to getting used to new baby in their house, creating that bond. We want them to set the pace as much as possible. Um, I also want you to expect regressions in eating, sleep, toileting, behavior, whatever it may be. There is a phase of regression that can hit, especially when baby comes. Why? It's attention seeking. It's trying to manage all the emotions. It's trying to figure out where they fit in. So just having that mindset will be helpful for when it happens. And I always tell families when regression happens, don't panic. It's a phase. It stops eventually. What we want to do is take that regression and go back to how we initially started training. So, however you started sleep training, you're going to go back to that to help your little one get past that regression stage. Um, and I also want you to think about mealtime and bedtime routines when new baby comes. Normally, when new baby comes, bedtime routines, meal times now get split between parents, and it can make your toddler have regression. It can make them gravitate towards one parent. So if you can think about mealtime and bedtime routines as a shift, maybe one parent does meal, one parent does bedtime, and you shift on and off and sort of create that as part of your new baby schedule. That will also help your little one not only get the attention that they're seeking, but also feel that they're just as important as baby is. So, when I talk about that sort of shift in mindset, I always tell families sometimes when it comes to any big life change or just big life emotions when it comes to siblings, just shifting our mindset, just a little shift in our mindset of parental ways to go about things is normally all we need to have a little bit more success and a little bit more ease. So if we can shift our mindset when it comes to siblings and remember not to compare them. It's so easy to compare them. So easy to be like, Catherine walked at 18 months. Why isn't, Jack walking now? Or Catherine used to eat all her fruits and veggies the minute we started introducing solids. Jack's not eating anything, right? It's easy to create those comparisons early on at an early age and then as they grow, but we don't want to do that. We really want to shift our mindset and remember every child's different. Every child develops at a different pace, has a different personality, right? They may be raised under the same house, but they're still learning and growing at their pace and remembering that because that comparison, even at an early age, can really create sibling conflict, sibling resentment, and sort of that competition with siblings that we don't want, right? Um, Making time for both siblings also is an important thing, even if it's 5 minutes. I always say my favorite way to make sure that I give attention to every child every day is something I like to call love taps, right? There's a lot of studies out there that show that children, although may need attention every day, of course they need it every day, right? But it doesn't mean that you have to sit down and play with them for an hour one-on-one at a time or take them out to ice cream one-on-one. Sometimes all they need for attention is touch. The idea of physical touch to feel seen, feel heard. And so I call them love taps. There are 10 love taps a day per child, right? It can be a tap on the head, it could be a rub on the back, it could be a kiss, it could be a hug, it could be you walking by them as they're independently playing and just rubbing their back, right? A squeeze at night, a squeeze in the morning. All of those little physical touches and love taps help our little ones feel that comfort, that attention that they're seeking, and you'll see a difference in their behavior. Okay, so as we talk about behavior, let's talk about conflict and sharing. This is such a big topic. I probably could teach a whole class on this. Um, I think before we even dive into it, it's important to remember that conflict and sharing, the concept of sharing for our little ones, um, is a concept that is very hard for them to understand, let alone for them wanting to do it, right? So they don't understand it and they don't want to do it. So that's why it's so difficult for them, right? The first thing that you really want to do to help promote sharing and help promote com- not having so much sibling conflict, and this can be done at a very early age, is to set boundaries. You're going to set boundaries in three categories: how they touch each other, how they talk to each other, and how they play, right? Those are the three categories. So, touch. How do we touch each other? Do we hit? Do we bite? Do we push? Do we shove? All of those boundaries you can teach, right? We touch each other with loving hands. We touch each other to play. We do not push. We do not shove. We do not hit, right? That's the first boundary. The second boundary is how do we talk to each other? How do we speak to each other? Do we use kind words? Do we yell? Do we use our bodies to communicate or do we use our words, right? All of those things are important as well. And then how do we play with each other? Do we play well together? Do we need a minute? Do we need to separate? And how do we navigate that? And teaching those three boundaries and having them be sort of your key markers when your little ones are playing together will be so helpful. A lot of families will say, well, is that for like older children, maybe like more school age space? No, you can start this as young as having an 18-month-old at home and a newborn, right? Because that 18-month-old needs to learn how we touch baby. Do we touch them with gentle hands, and how we can go about where can we touch them? Do we touch their head? Can we rub their belly? What are safe places for us to do that? Talking, it's important to know how we talk. Even if we're not completely verbal, our volume of our communication, What words do we say? What is their name? Do we call them by name? All of those things are building that empathy and that bond, all while setting boundaries, right? And then how do we play with them? Can baby play with our little tiny doll pieces? No, but can baby play with our big ball? Yeah, baby can look at the big ball and so can we. And so setting those boundaries early on and then obviously adjusting and changing them as your children grow will be very helpful for sharing and for conflict resolution when it comes to siblings, right? I think whenever a sibling conflict or resolution or your children having a hard time playing together, you want to always go back to those boundaries of how we touch, how we talk, and how we play together. A lot of times families when it comes to toys has have a very and I get it. I was the same way. You think of toys, you think of choking hazards, you think of age groups, right? This is a toy for a 5-year-old, this is a toy for a 2-year-old, and you tend to separate them. But a lot of times it's helpful to put them together. So if you have a bin of blocks, and one is for the 5-year-old and one is for the 2-year-old, but they're safe. They're safe for the 2-year-old. Put them on the same shelf together. Put them in the same bin together. Sometimes integrating two different levels of toys helps them understand that they are to play together and work together. It helps your older sibling create that empathy of teaching the younger sibling. It helps the younger sibling want to learn how to do what the older sibling's doing. So taking two comparable toys that are safe for both ages and putting them together is a great way to learn how to share space, share tools, share resources, and again, building that empathy. On the same token, if you have an older child that is using a toy that isn't appropriate for your younger children, it's important to give them space to be able to play with that. It's not really fair, right, for your older child not to be able to play with their Legos because baby brother might eat them, right? So there's probably a safe space, whether it's a tabletop, their bedroom, somewhere where they can go and create and build and play on their own and not have to worry about their younger sibling because that's where that conflict starts to happen, right? Younger siblings trying to play with them, older sibling knows it's not appropriate. And so that conflict starts to happen and it's not necessary. So making sure that there are their own play spaces are great and shared spaces as well. Sharing is a great way to promote that empathy, but it can be very hard, right? So, two methods I love to use when it comes to empathy and sharing is a physical timer, like literally using a timer on your phone. Google, Alexa, whatever it may be, set a timer for 5 minutes. Catherine gets this ball for 5 minutes. When the timer goes off, pass it to Jack. Jack gets to use the ball for 5 minutes, and you can go back and forth for 5 hours if you need to, but having sort of that very clear cut boundary of when they need to share is helpful, right? Because it's always the children always don't want to share because they always feel like they're never going to get it back. So knowing that when the timer goes off, being very predictable and consistent, that they then get it back, that will break that cycle of not wanting to share. Also, taking turns, which is sort of the same thing, if they can do that without using a timer, is a great way to sort of build that connection and that empathy. Um, you can also do the switch method. So one has a ball, one has Legos. When the timer goes off, we switch, right? And they get to use the other child's toy and then they switch back. It's a great way to really share. Again, they're going to get it back, but they're sharing and learning that in a fun, creative way. When your little one is younger, like baby infancy and toddlerhood, passing a ball is the fundamental game you can play to teach your little one how to share, right? Because you have a ball, you're giving it away, and you're getting it back. It's a great way to show that it's a give and receive connection. And then as they grow older, they'll start to learn the idea of sharing as a bigger concept, but passing a ball is a great way to promote it at an early age. Teamwork helps too when you have older children who are having more difficulty than not sharing and conflict resolution, having them do things as a team, right? We are going to build this tower as a team. We're going to do this obstacle course as a team. We're going to ride our bikes as a team are great ways to really get them to connect and work together towards the same goal. And another thing that is helpful to use is a calm down corner. So, this is like that new age thing that a lot of families use. You can have a basket, you can have an actual corner of a way for your little one to sort of take a break from whatever they're doing, go over, calm their bodies down, calm their sensory system down, their minds down before they can re engage and play with siblings. That will help them sort of re regulate when they become dysregulated and upset with sibling conflict. The last thing I like to talk about today before we jump into any questions you guys may have is the importance of family time. And please, I am the mom of three boys working. My husband works. I get it. Family time is hard sometimes, or when there is family time, maybe there's other families involved or other things involved. But creating a time, whether it's once a week, whether it's for 1 hour on a Sunday morning, will definitely help with sibling conflict, sibling connection, sibling love, right? So we want to create a togetherness time. It can be as simple as walking around the block. It can be as simple as eating breakfast together. It doesn't have to be this crazy event, right? It just needs to be a time where you're all there, you're all together, and you're all present. It will encourage sibling bonds. Another thing you can work on as a family unit is that we cheer everyone on, back to sort of that comparison and that competition that we want to break when it comes to siblings. We want to teach all our children to cheer their other siblings on, whether they're doing a great job, whether they have a similar interest or a very different interest. We all want to cheer them on. That will again help really improve their empathy. And their sibling bond. So you can start that so young at dance class, gymnastics, soccer, like physically cheer them on in their activity or cheer them on of a great day at school, a great day at daycare, whatever it may be. I like to use the happy question at dinner. This is another great little tip that you can use to create that family togetherness where you ask each member, what made you happy today, right? You'll learn a lot. It's a great way to connect on a positive emotion. And it's a great way to get sibling to sort of have more of a conversation, think about their day, reflect on it, and sometimes maybe what made them happy was their sibling. And wouldn't that be a great thing? um that's sort of encouraging that nurturing and sort of encouraging nurturing with our little ones to each other. We always encourage it from parent to child, but encouraging nurturing from child to child will very much help build that sibling bond. Partnered activities and chores, if your little one has a chore, have them do it with their sibling. Again, one goal in mind, everybody working together really helps. Do a family movie night if that's something that will help you really create that togetherness time that I talked about. Games together, all of those things are so important when it comes um, to connectiveness. I once worked with a family and they were just super busy, and I completely get that. And they were just having a hard time, like having family dinner together and everything. And I said, well, then let's just use the car whenever you guys are in the car, whole family in a car. Maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once every 2 weeks, but when you are, phones away, radios off, and have conversation. Use that drive as a way to connect. And it really seems so simple, but it was the best way to have them connect. So, I'm going to end my spiel there. I would love to open it up to any questions, any specific scenarios that you're struggling with when it comes to sibling love or working through sibling conflict, uh, introducing a new baby to your family. So, if anybody has any questions, you can put it in the chat box below. Those of you who joined us at the end, or sorry, at the beginning, in the chat box, I put my email address and my social media handle. I would love for you to come follow the Miss Catherine on Instagram and Facebook. And also, it's a great way to learn more tips and tricks when it comes to early childhood development and see any upcoming events or activities that I have. How do you set boundary if sorry, the question is, how do you set boundaries if kids are already older and didn't do it from the beginning? So you can set a boundary at any point. And so that talk, touch, and how we play, or talk, touch, how we interact, depending on their age, is a great way to sort of sit down. What I would say for older children, who maybe are more verbal, is have everyone sit down and have them be a part of it, right? Have them sort of write or decide what that boundary is, obviously within reason, but asking them, how do you think we should touch our brothers and sisters when we're playing or working together? Should we hit them? Should we, touch them gently, or helpful touches? Like, how should we do that? And sort of creating that boundary with them is something we like to call in child behavior as a buy-in. So it'll really make them feel like they develop the boundary, which will make them want to follow it more, which will make them remember it more. So that would be my advice, Julie, is even if you didn't start when they were younger, have them sit down, have them create 3 boundaries of how to get along better with their sibling, and just restate them every time. I have a 4-year-old and a 5-week newborn. Congratulations. And definitely noticing some behavioral regressions with my older one, hitting, getting upset. We've been trying to do one-on-one tonight, connect with him, but he'll continue to say he doesn't like the baby. Any tips on how to talk to him about the baby? So I would definitely get books, different Big Brother books, or just books with 2 children in it, so that you can tell him about when baby gets bigger, what baby can do. Baby can play ball with you, or baby can, ride bikes with you. I would also sort of let him set the pace a little bit. Sometimes us as parents really want them, to connect and have that picture perfect moment with baby, and that's not always the case, and that's okay. So just sort of allowing your 4-year-old to really just get accustomed to baby in the way that they would like to is okay. It doesn't mean they're not gonna have a good bond. Another way you can do that is have your 4-year-old interact with baby on their favorite subjects, or their common interests, right? So if they're really into monster trucks, they can talk to baby about monster trucks, and you can sort of encourage your 4-year-old of all the things that they can teach baby about monster trucks, if that makes sense. I would continue to do that one-on-one time. I think that's important. And then slowly start integrating baby here and there can be helpful. Um, but I think those would be my top tips. um, and I would also I think us as parents always shy away from asking this, but it can tell you a lot. So if he says he doesn't like the baby, I think a great question to ask him is why? Why don't you like the baby? Right? He might say he cries too much, and that is his trigger of why he doesn't like baby. Or he might not be able to identify it, and that's okay too, right? It just might be a general, I don't like this change in my life. But asking why sometimes is all you need to ask to find out exactly why, and then you can adapt your approach from there. No, you're fine, Henry. My youngest is 2, is hitting, scratching, throws things like a monster to my 5-year-old. How do we direct our 5-year-old to deal with the aggressiveness? We've been shouting at the 2-year-old just from fatigue from summer break. Oh, I know. Summer, man, summer can want to talk about sibling conflict. Summer really brings out the best, right? So clearly your 2-year-old is being a 2-year-old, right? Hitting, scratching, throwing things like a monster. That's very typical 2-year-old behavior. Not the best of what we want, but that is being 2. And your 5-year-old probably knows that that's not the best choice or not the best behavior, but doesn't like that their sibling is treating them that way. And then maybe possibly sometimes your 5-year-old then starts mimicking the 2-year-old, and they get into it. So what I would say is when your 2-year-old does that, you need to set the boundary. And it doesn't need to, I understand the frustration of yelling. We've all been there. But if you can just say one line and decide what that line is and just constantly say it to your 2-year-old of, we don't hit our brother, we don't scratch, we don't throw things in this house. Taking the 2-year-old and having them take a break. Your 21st century idea of a timeout, right? So have them take a break, calm their bodies down, take a minute, then have them, if your 2-year-old's able to verbalize, I'm sorry or understand the boundary, then have them say they're sorry to your 5-year-old, so that your 5-year-old feels validated and your 5-year-old sees that the boundary was put there and the boundary is there and that you held firm to the boundary, right? um and then you might have to do that consistently a few days to keep it as consistent as possible, but it will start to teach your 2-year-old this is not okay. This is an absolute not, and I need to stop doing it. In regards to your 5-year-old, it's always great to tell your 5-year-old you're making good choices. I'm sorry that your brother is doing X, Y, and Z, but we're working on it so that they feel seen and heard. Yeah, it's hard. Um, to differentiate Henry is saying that they're worried that their 2-year-old will start doing it at school. It's definitely something that could probably pop up at school because it's a learned behavior that they have now. I think just reiterating, especially as we get closer to school starting, this is not a good behavior. We don't do this at home. We don't do this at school. And if it's something that you're really worried may be sort of their reaction to things at school, on your way to school, sort of again, have that line, whatever you decide of that boundary, and every morning on your way to school, just remind them. And remember, we keep our hands to ourselves. We don't hit, we don't scratch, we don't throw things. We use our words. We get a teacher. Give them the solution before it happens, so that they know how to handle that emotion. Um, and then if it happens at school, again, sort of give them that solution and that direction again. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. All right. Any other questions? You're very welcome. All right. I'm not kicking you guys off, but I also don't want to take any more of your afternoon than I have to. I really encourage you to come follow along, Miss Catherine. If you have any other questions after today's class and think, oh, I should have asked this, feel free to email me. My email's at the top of the chat. And don't forget, if you would like any more one on one guidance and support. I work with families, like I said, on so many different aspects of early childhood. You get a specific individualized plan from me. You get me one on one to help work with you and support you on whatever we're working on, whether it's potty training or picky eating or sleep. I have an extensive background in pediatric sleep. Yes, let me here's my email again for those of you asking, and here's my handle too. You can reach me on Instagram through my handle if that's easier for you, whatever works. Um, You're very welcome. Yes, you are all in the same boat. It is not some crazy thing. Like I said, summer can really bring out siblings and conflict and just sort of everybody getting tired of everyone, and that's okay too, right? Just knowing how to handle it is helpful. Um, you're very welcome. I hope to see you all again soon, and I hope you all have a great rest of your summer. Good luck.